All right, so we'll say good morning. Let's begin today's daf. Is Chaf Aleph. We are picking up from Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph. We're actually picking up with Chayiv al Harosh, second wide line down from the top. Our shur this morning is dedicated by dedicated by Sammy and Malka Esterson in memory of their parents, Ludwig Stiefel, Yitzchok Leib, and Aaron Akoin, and Hinda Esterson, Hinda Bas Henech Ephraim, of them the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama Sohav Aliyah, and the families in the Chama. I also want to thank Rabbi Richter for giving the shir yesterday. It was also a little bit of an extreme shir, Baruch Hashem. Those of you who were here yesterday morning, we had a gas leak in the shul, so we had to clear the building. So Baruch Hashem, that film began in the base medrash. It ended in the parking lot. And he went a little bit overtime. That's how Rabbi Richter was able to get a little bit further down on the daf. So we're picking up in Eretz Hashem with Chayiv al Harosh. I'm sorry. There's always extra scar. Absolutely. The Chayiv al Harosh. So remember again, we're talking. I'm sorry. Chayiv Chaf Aleph Amud Aleph 21a Meseches Maakos Talmud Bavli. This is Daf Yomi Shir. It's not the bar shir. Daf Yomi Shir. So Chayiv al Harosh. So remember again, the Mishnah is talking about all of the different situations for which one is Chayiv Malchus. So the Mishnah's example was if one goes ahead and cuts the corners of the head. So remember again, we're speaking specifically over here about the prohibition to cut off pants. So understand this discussion as well as the following discussion about shaving of the beard are more intricate, of course, that we're going to get into in Daf Yomis. A lot of the things we're going to learn are subject to incredible amounts of machlokes, but at least we'll get an overview of the topic. So the Chayiv al Harosh. So Machli Rav Sheshes mentioned, because we'll say obviously, when the Mishnah says that you're chayiv for shaving the head, so the shayla, of course, is what does that mean? Which part of the head? So Machli Rav Sheshes motioned Bein Pirkei Reisha. Rav Sheshes motioned, and again he said Bein Pirkei Reisha literally means the joints of the head, which over here is a reference to the temples. So therefore Rav Sheshes said that the payas, the area where one is not permitted to go ahead and shave. And Rav say, interestingly enough, the prohibition of shaving payas, you see, when we discuss, often the prohibition of shaving payas and shaving beard are often used interchangeably. So we will discuss that when it comes to a beard, one is not permitted to shave one's face with a razor, with a straight edge. And that is true. Literally, it's on 5 parts of the face. But because we're going to see the machlokes about which 5 parts, ultimately, again, the prohibition pretty much covers the entire face. You can't shave with a straight blade. When it comes to payas is a little bit different. That even if one does not cut the payas with a straight blade, but rather one goes in and shaves off the payas to the point that there's no hair in the temple area, one does it with a shaver or something, that's also a violation according to most poskim of the biblical prohibition as well. So if one were to get a very close haircut and to go ahead and shave off everything by the payas area, that could also be a biblical prohibition. So the Chayiv al Harosh, so Machli Rav Sheshes, Bein Pirkei Reisha, the temples of the head. Now, I will say when it comes to the beard, so the Mishnah told us that if we were to go ahead and shave the entire beard with a razor, one would be chayiv ultimately again for 5 different locations. For 2 on the side, literally 2 on this side, 2 on this side, and 1 on the bottom. Machli Rav Sheshes again tried to motion this. Ben Pirkei Zikna. So if you look at the Rivan, also you noticed again already in yesterday's daf, so the commentary on the right side of the page switched over from Rashi to the Rivan for the last few blot over here. So Rashi says over here, Ki Pirkei Digna, it's about halfway down in the short lines in Rashi. He says, Parak Rishon Shal Zaken, Tachas HaOzen, Makom Shalche HaTachton, Yotze Misham, Misham Nikra Peya Bichudo Shalachi, Shebolet Lochotz. Essentially, according to the Rivan, the 5 general areas are the areas, again, right by like the middle of the ear, the bottom of the ear, and the beginning of the cheekbone, and the chin. Now, this is also subject to incredible machlokes. Everyone agrees that there are 5 spots on the beard where one is not permitted to go ahead and shave with a razor. There's a machlokes what those 5 spots are, which yields the conventional wisdom that what? Don't shave with a razor. That's why, again, we don't bring a razor anywhere by our face. According to most poskim, if a person shaves their neck with the razor, they're okay. Certainly, if you go for a haircut and you get the back of your neck with the razor, that's fine. But anything, again, mustache itself is a bit of a machlokes in terms of where exactly the 5 sides are. But conventional wisdom generally is that on the face itself, it is biblically prohibited to use any kind of straight edge when shaving. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer Omer im Natlan. So Rabbi Eliezer says, if you went ahead and you shaved them all at once, you only chayev once. Kasavar chad lavu. Because Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion that lamaisa, again, the shaving of the beard, in fact, represents one cohesive lav. Ve'eno chayev ad sheit lano b'tar. Now, this is very interesting. So remember, again, the Mishnah said that one is only chayev if eno chayev elishil b'tar. If you shave with a razor, Rabbi Eliezer, we'll see how just what Rabbi Eliezer says. Even if you shave it, literally malakit or reitani is like a plane. Any kind of straight edge, Rabbi Eliezer holds that you're chayiv. So before we get to this, the Tanakama holds you only chayiv for shaving your beard if you do it with a razor. So says the Gemara, Tanrabanon, upas zikanam lo yigalechu. So the pasuk says that literally again the corners of the beard you shall not shave. Yochol afilu gilchu b'misraim. We'll say, just by the way, there's an interesting discussion. We're not going to get into it now, but there's an interesting discussion among some of the poskim regarding some of the newer types of like lift and cut shavers. If whether or not there's an actual issue with using that type of shaver, because again, if it's kishmo keinu, if it's mamish like a lift and cut, the whole chap of it is that there's some type of straight edge that seems to go ahead and hit the skin itself. So this is a big machlokes of contemporary posting. There are many contemporary posting that essentially hold that it's pashat like false advertising, that it doesn't actually do what it says it does. V'haraya, the proof to that generally is the fact that if you hold it against your hand, what happens? Nothing. Pretty much you hold it against your hand. There's no direct hand. It's still a shaver. It might pull that or whatever. But there are other poskim who hold that no. Want to see a very makbid. So if you go like Starkey has it, I think OU also has it, like a list of halachically approved shavers. So again, just understand that's a contemporary machlokes. Even in the world of electric shavers, the machlokes about whether or not, or how makbid one has to do with certain technologies. Then you'll consult your local Orthodox rabbi for psak halacha on that. So the Gemara goes right there. This is daf yomi. This is not. So the Gemara goes right there. So we'll say, remember again. So the Mishnah says that you're only chayiv if you go ahead and you shave with a razor. I might have thought that even if one shaves with scissors, maybe when the Torah says, what it literally means is you can't shave. You can't shave. So even if you shave with scissors, now we'll say, what's the chap if you shave with scissors? What's the chap with that? So it won't be a close shave, meaning the most you could cut off are the longer hairs, but there'll still be some type of stubble that's left. So I might have thought that the prohibition of shaving is even with scissors. Talmud lomar lo sashchis. Therefore, the pasuk says you shall not destroy. Now, so what does it mean? So again, the Gemara is quoting over here. What does it mean when it says lo sakifu pas roshchem v'lo sashchis es pasik amecha? What is sashchis? Sashchis means destroy. We'll say, what does destroying mean in this context? Destroying means a totally clean shave. That the idea here is the Torah is saying it's not the cutting of the beard that is prohibited, but rather it's shaving in a fashion which destroys the beard. So the Gemara says, so now the shaila is, well, what does that mean? What does that refer to? So we'll say, if that's the case, then what? Then if you were to go ahead and shave with like a plane, let's say I had to take a butcher's knife and I were to go ahead and shave with that, or to shave with some type of carpentry tool that could go ahead and give me a close shave, but it's not a shaver, I would have thought that would also be usher. Because remember again, what does that do? That also destroys the hair. Talmud lomar lo yigalechu. Therefore, we'll say, what does the Torah say? Lo yigalechu, which literally translated means what? Shaving or haircutting. In other words, it will say, so there's this an interesting tension up here. On one hand, the Torah says that it's not any kind of hair cutting that's usher. If I trim my beard or I cut my beard with scissors, so that's not biblically prohibited. It has to be the type of hair cutting or type of shaving which by definition destroys the beard. Yet, to use a utensil that is not inherently a shaving utensil will also not be usher. Why not? Because the Torah frames it in a way of a normative haircut, a normative shave. So how ketzad? So we'll say, how ketzad? Giluach sheish ba'ashchasa. So we'll say, what is the type of giluach, which means normative shaving, but that has hashchasa, that totally removes the hair on the face. Avi Omer zet ta'ar. We'll say, what does this refer to? It can only refer to one thing, which is a razor. A razor is the one mechanism. A razor is the one mechanism where what? Where the mice, so again, on one hand, it's giluach. It's a normative form of shaving. But lemaisa, it's hashchasa. It also goes ahead and totally destroys the beard. I will say, the truth is, based on yesterday's daf, we saw other types as well. You could use depilatories, right? Which again was commonly used not until so long ago. Some type of cream, which ultimately would also take off there. So again, we dealt with that a little bit in yesterday's daf. We'll deal with that a little bit more in Miraz Hashem and other Masechtos. But Lamais, what the Gemara understands it over here is that this interesting tension between, on one hand, it can't be ashchasi, it can't destroy the beard, but the Torah phrases the prohibition in the lashon of giluach, shaving. So what is a normative type of giluach which will destroy the facial hair? There's only one thing that does that, which is the ta'ar, the razor. So now you understand it can't refer to the plane, or it can't refer to any type of other sharp instrument, which although it could technically go ahead and remove the beard, because it's not a normative form of shaving, won't be biblically prohibited. So on the other hand, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, now remember, on the flip side, Rabbi Eliezer says no. Even if you were to use a carpenter's plane, right? Even if you were to use some other straight edge in order to remove your facial hair, you would be chayiv. So what's going on over here? Rabbi Eliezer, if you hold the gzeira shava, then what? Then it should only be a raise. That's prohibited. So, and if you're not learning the gzeira shava, then what? Then even scissors should be prohibited. To which the Gemara says, the olam gomer gzeira shava. No, in fact, Rabbi Eliezer does learn the gzeira shava, I will say. But what? The kasabar hani nami giluach abdi. Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion, I will say, that the usage of a tar, the usage of a straight plane, also goes ahead and satisfies the criteria of giluach, of shaving. So I'll say, so bottom line, Rabbi Eliezer is not really disagreeing b'shita, but Rabbi Eliezer is just simply expanding the category of what's considered ultimately giluach. Rabbi Eliezer holds that it is normative to shave with what? Any straight edge. Even though it might be a carpenter's school tool, even though, again, it's not sold by Gillette, but Lamais, at the end of the day, he holds that if it's a straight edge, people will shave it. We'll say, how do we pass in halacha Lamaisa? We pass like the Tanakama, that in fact one will only be chayiv for hashchasa of the beard if one uses a razor. If one were to technically use any other straight edge, which is a non-normative way of shaving, although it might be asur still d'Rabbanan, one would not go ahead and violate the Isser D'Oraisa. Good, we pass like the Tanakama. We'll say good. Weiter. Says the Mishnah. Hakosi psulas kakar. We'll say these are all, again, say you're keeping a list of all the things we have to go back over, because the truth is these happen to be fascinating. Just maybe not. Maybe we'll do on December 25th or January 1st. Maybe those days.
Why? What are those?
I'm sorry.
It's federal holiday.
What
are those days?
What are the Niddelnacht? I'm saying we'll do on. I'm so from. Okay, good. Says the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah. I heard by the nations of the world, busy on these days. Yeah, but says the Mishnah. So I'll say now we're getting into an interesting discussion about tattoos. So if one goes ahead, remember, if one goes ahead, literally writes or embeds on their flesh a tattoo, kasav, kakasav v'lo kikeah. Kikea v'lo kasav. Now, both say this is actually again another interesting detail in this discussion. We'll say the way the Mishnah understands that there are two parts to tattooing. There is the puncturing of the skin and the ink. There is a fascinating machlokes haposkim as to what order was employed for tattooing. So again, if you look, take a look at the Rivan for just a moment. So we'll say again, third wide line in the Rivan. Remember again, as I mentioned before, the Rivan replaces Rashi for the last couple of blot here. So take a look at the Rivan. Third wide line. You see it where it says Mishnah, Ksobes Kaka, Kosev Tchila Al Besaro Besam O Besikra. So we'll say, listen to the way the Rivan describes. So Talmudic tattooing. So listen to this. So they would go ahead and they would write on the skin. So you would put whatever image or whatever name you put in there. So Besam O Besikra. ואחר מקעקע הבשר במחט או בסכין, ונכנס הצבע בין האור לבשר, ונראה בו כל היום עם קעקע. So listen to this, we'll say. So the way the Rivan describes the tattooing process was how they would first go ahead and write. You would write or you make whatever image you wanted. Then what would happen? You would puncture the skin and the image or the word would seep into the flesh. So that's how the Rivan describes tattooing. Writing, puncturing. It's a major machlokes harishonim about whether or not that was the true order. Others say no, the way it was done was what? The skin was first punctured and then the ink injected. And I will say, now you say to yourself, who cares? It matters a lot. Why? Because in order to violate the biblical prohibition, it's not just enough that you end up with an image on your flesh, but rather the specific order must be followed as well. So for example, according to the Rivan, if you were to go ahead and what? First puncture the flesh and then inject the ink, what would be the halacha? Right? Now I know if you're potter, it was still probably partially be asr midirabanan, and you're not getting shishi, that's for sure. But lemaisa again, you're not chayiv midaraisa. Not chayiv midaraisa. But I will say at the end of the day, it's possible that you're only chayiv midaraisa if halacha lemaisa again you follow the direct order. So I'm just pointing out, it's just like I said, it's going to be one of our topics that I will say just this discussion of tattooing is quite a fascinating discussion. And I'll tell you, it comes up very often when, people find their way back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and they've made all kinds of life decisions in the interim before once again returning. So the shaila is, interesting discussion amongst contemporary poskim, whether or not there is a concept, because there is tattoo removal, whether or not there's such a concept like this of dafka removing tattoos. If one is a choser b'tshuva, should one go ahead and have their tattoos removed or not? It's a big discussion amongst the poskim, big discussion out mikvah, a lot of interesting ramifications of this. We're not going to get into that today, but Lemaisa, for our purposes, just keep in the back of your mind this machlokes rishonim about the order of tattooing. Is it writing puncturing or is it puncturing writing? The Rivan is clearly of the opinion that it's writing then puncturing. Fine. So therefore, back to the Mishnah. So it's like, let's say you just go ahead and you write on the flesh. But you don't puncture the skin. Or kikeh v'lo kasav, or you puncture, but you don't go ahead and write. Eino chayiv at shichto b'yikakeh biyado b'kachol u'b'chol davar shuroshim. So this is very important. So therefore, again, it's very important that you're only chayiv if what? At shichto b'yikakeh, you have to go ahead and write and puncture. And I will say, here's the other chayiv. It has to be b'kachol u'b'chol davar shuroshim. Anything ultimately, again, what I will say, that leaves a roshem. The ink itself, if it's disappearing ink, so lemaisa, again, it's not an issue if it's an ink that disappears, it's not an issue ultimately, again, of tattooing. So we'll say, so for example, these temporary tattoos are not, I will just tell you, it's not good chinuch. I just want to point out, right? Just this idea of these kids walking around with temporary tattoos, and again, I want to point out also, they don't go away. It's not going to go home and wash it off. Like, they're there. So obviously, what the Ribono Shel Olam is trying to say is the body is kaddish. And therefore, Sefer HaChinuch has a whole piece on this. And therefore, again, one has to be careful. Ultimately, again, what they do with the body. So just al chinuch in terms of, even though again, it's halavai, these aren't the biggest challenges that we're facing in this dar. But obviously, Chalash Baruch Hu says that something is aser. The pashtus, even on a temporary level, that obviously means that the Ribono Shel Olam doesn't want us to do it. Just out chinuch, it might not be the best idea. So the Gemara goes weiter. Rabbi Shimon Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Shimon Omer, Eino Chayiv Ad Sheyichtov Sham Es Hashem. Now, this is actually very interesting. So Rabbi Shimon Yehuda says in Rabbi Shimon that in fact you're only chayiv for tattooing if you write. Now it sounds like what he's saying is if you write the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if you write the name of God, that's ultimately again the issue. Now, we're gonna modify this in the Gemara. Shneimar uksoves kako lo titnu bochem ani Hashem. Says the interesting drasha of the pasuk. You shall not go ahead and put a tattoo on yourselves. Ani Hashem, I am God. So Shimon seems to darshan over here that the type of tattoo that's asur is what? Is when you tattoo the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on your body. Now we're going to modify that in just a little bit. Amar so says the Gemara. Amar le Rav Acha Brei Rav Ashi. So Rav Acha said Rav Acha, son of Rav, said Rav Ashi, Adi Yichtov Ani Hashem Manish. So this is actually very interesting. What's the Isser D'Oraisa for tattooing? To write Ani Hashem. Ani Hashem. They will say, so again, right, try Ani Hashem. I have to, Okay, I'll tell you afterwards. I once met someone in Eretz Yisrael. Actually, this was picking up luggage. I'm sorry. So this was UK Vavke. That's I mamish met this individual. He was picking up his luggage, and he stretched out his arm, and I saw something interesting. He had like stripes on his arm. So I said, what's the pshat with that tattoo? He says it's tefillin. It's tefillin. This man was a Kosher b'tshuva, and he wanted to make up for all of the lost years that he didn't put on tefillin. So he had tattooed straps on his arms. So I said to myself, like, I said, okay, I have to imagine that the Ribbon Shalom has incredible simcha from this. I know maybe it's a shtickle heresy to see about the question. I said, okay, ridiculously misguided. Obviously, he did not seek out the right eitzah before taking this. And I said, imagine that a Jew has such charata over the missed years of tefillin that he never wants to go another moment without some type of osam tefillin on his body. It's very inspired by that. Again, not recommended. I want to go on record, not recommended. But the rest, again, still, right, on the Shomrosh, I don't know what he did about the Shomrosh. I don't know. I'll say, I want to point out, like, sometimes you have these moments, you say, Mika Amcha Yisrael. There is nothing like the Kiddush of a Jew. Because even when a Jew is misguided, even when a Jew makes mistakes, everything a Jew does is with such even when we sin with Kedusha. Even when we do negative things, we do negative things with Kedusha. And incredible things. It says the Gemara, brother Ravashi, so both say, instead of the name of Ravashi, that the prohibition of tattooing is dafka if a person writes, Ani Hashem, I am God. So Amarle, lo. So both say, so again, remember, where is Rav Ashi getting this from? It's a literal interpretation of the pasuk. Because again, the pasuk says, "Uksuves kaka lo titnu bachem ani Hashem." So he's literally dashing the pasuk is how "Uksuves kaka lo titnu bachem." You may not tattoo anything on yourselves, and what may you not tattoo on yourself? What may you not tattoo on yourself? Ani Hashem. So it's a quite literal interpretation of the pasuk. So Amrle lo. He said to him, "No, that's wrong. That what you're saying is incorrect." Kidetani bar kafra, eno chayev at yichtov shem avodas kochavim. Arbo says, so says bar kafra. Bar kafra says you're only chayev for tattooing when if you tattoo the name of idolatry on you. Shneimar uksoves kakal lo titnu bachem ani Hashem ani Hashem lo achar. So we'll say ultimately again the way they interpret the pasuk is uksoves kakal lo titnu bachem ani Hashem. Right, you may not tattoo anything on you. I am Hashem. What may you not tattoo on yourself? The name of another God. So we'll say, so the Gemara goes, so bottom line, by the way, the way we paskin is we paskin any type of tattoo. Doesn't make a difference if it's the name of God, name of Avodah Zarah, name of anything else. Maybe it could be that if you tattoo Avodah Zarah, you might be chayiv twice. You might be chayiv ultimately again for Ksoves Kakon. You might be chayiv again depending on what the nature of the Avodah Zarah is for Avodah Zarah, portion of Avodah Zarah. But Lamaisa, again, the prohibition ultimately of tattooing will be on anything. So the Gemara goes weiter. Amrav Malkiya, Amrav Ada bar Abba. Asr lo li adam sheyitin efer makla al gabe Maakos. This is very interesting. So Rav Malkiya comes along and says that you are not permitted to go ahead and put efer makla. So we'll say efer makla means ashes. So apparently the way they used to heal certain wounds was to place ashes on the wounds. The problem with it was what? That even after the wound was healed, essentially it left a mark on the skin. It left a tattoo on the skin. So Malkia comes along and says that you are not permitted even to use ashes to heal your wound, because ultimately, again, it has the appearance of a tattoo. Obviously, that's not my kavanah. Obviously, that's not my intention. But lamais, again, because it has the appearance of a tattoo, you can't do it. So we'll say, listen to this. So now we're going to state that there are two of us, two Rabbanim, Rav Malkiya and Rav Malkiyo. So now the Gemara is going to discuss which halachos are mentioned by Rav Malkiya, which halachos are mentioned by Rav Malkiyo. Rav Nachman Rabika, Shipud, Shvachos, Gumos, Rav Malkiyo. So we'll say the halachos of Shipud, Shvachos, and Gumos, Rav Malkiyo. What are the halachos of Shipud? So we'll say if you look at Rashi, or the Riban, excuse me. So if you look in the Riban, Shipud, it's 2, 4, 6, 8 lines in the wide lines. Shipud, was a shipud literally is a spit. So beperek in sudden shipud shetzala babas asal taltlo. So we'll say the halacha is normally if on Yom Tiv, you go ahead and you roast meat on a spit. The spit becomes muktzah. Why? So we'll say there's a constant muktzah makamas mius. So when something becomes so disgusting, it's set aside for non-use, and therefore again it becomes muktzah. So once you roast meat on a spit, the spit itself becomes disgusting. Therefore, by definition, becomes muktzah. Amar Malki, Amar Ravada, v'shomto manicha b'keren zavis. I know shmaisa di'iluye milsa damura rava. So we'll say Ramalkio says, however, you don't need to leave the spit where it is, but rather again you can move the spit over to the side. So even though it's muktzah, you can move it out of the way. You can move it to the side. That's shiput. I will say shvachos. This is actually an interesting case. Shvachos also is a case of maid service. Rashi Rivan says shvachos mishnahi the parak al gives in ksubis. Rabbi Eliezer Omer afilu echnisa blo meya. Amra Malki Amra Vada halach Rabbi Eliezer. Let's listen to this. The Mishnah Maseches Ksubis discussed the idea that there are certain obligations, certain household responsibilities that a wife has. The wife has. There's interesting machlokes in the Gemara. Let's say a woman is from a very wealthy family, so she brings in 100 maidservants. She's got a staff. So is she still responsible for certain household responsibilities or not? So Tanakama says no. Rabbi Eliezer says yes. Why? So she's still responsible for certain household responsibilities. Why? Because Rabbi Eliezer say it is not good for any person to be idle. So even though again the woman might have a staff, it's good for her to go ahead and stop certain responsibilities because idleness ultimately gets people into trouble. Rav Malkio Paskins like Rabbi Eliezer that even if she brings in a household staff, there are still certain household responsibilities she has. And the last case, gumos. So if you look at Rivan again, Benida Bebas Simon, the Bchelba Omar of Hunashtei Saro Sha'amru Tzar Shei Ba'ikron Gumos. So Rav Malkio Omar Rav Ada Barava Gumos Abishay Masar. So we'll say the halacha is that normally again to have physical signs of maturity, there need to be two well-defined pores with two holes. Rav Malkio holds that even if the hairs are not there, but the pores are well defined, that's not, because if the pores are visible, we assume that's what? The hairs were there, they just fell out. So we'll say those are the cases of Rav Malkio. On the other hand, back to the Gemara, Bluris, Efer Makle, Givina, Rav Malkio. We'll say on the other hand, these are all, as I'm sure you've seen, the incredible part about Gemara, and especially Daf Yomi. And also, we begin in a sugya, and you get all of this like bonus material. I don't know. We just quoted a halacha when it comes to tattooing, and it's amazing how you get to touch on all of these other sugyas. So take a look. What are these cases? So we'll say three cases: Bloris, Ephra Makla, and Givino, or Malkio. What are these cases? It's amazing. Bloris, look at the Rivan, continue the Rivan. Very imamin the Babalazar. Tanabanon. Obed Kochavim Hamistaper Mi Yisrael. So let's listen to this. The way it used to be for the Ovdei Avodah Zarah is they would go ahead and they would let a piece of their hair grow long. What do they call that? Rat tail. A rat tail? Okay, good. A mullet. Okay, good. So whatever it is, you'll go to West Virginia, whatever they have over there, right? So we'll say, so the idea over here is the bloris. So we'll say the way they used to grow it out was for Avodah Zarah. So it's an interesting shaila. Let's say I am a Jewish barber, and a non-Jewish individual, an akum comes in, he wants his haircut, and he says a little off the top, and leave the bloris. So we'll say the problem is that bloris is in and of itself a form of avodah zarah. That's the way they worship the avodah zarah. So the Gemara discusses the idea that ultimately again the Jewish barber cannot cut within 3 finger breadths. This is Rav Malki's shita. 3 finger breadths of the bloris. So you could cut the rest of the akum's head, but you can't go in and cut within 3 finger breadths of the bloris. So that's halacha number 1. Next. Efer Makla. So I'll say Efer Makla is the case of the ashes. That's how we got into this whole discussion over here, which says what Rabbi say that if you have a wound that needs to be healed with ashes, Rav Malkiah says that what you cannot use ashes. Why? Because ultimately it'll leave a mark, which is like tattooing. And lastly, Gvina, which I will say is actually interesting. Look at the Rivan. Gvina nami ba'in ma'amidin the kind of a Mishnah ugvinos base unaiki. So I will say you can't eat cheese from base unaiki. This was Gentile cheese. Why not? My time So we'll say apparently they used to coat the cheese with some type of lard. So therefore, again, you can't eat the cheese because it was coated with the lard of non-kosher. So we'll say again, Gavinas Akum in general has another discussion. Is another issue the Gemara brings down is that they used to go ahead and use the rennet from the stomachs of non-kosher animals, which again is a whole, we'll get this in Avodah Zarah, is a whole discussion, because rennet in and of itself is usually something that is not fit for achila, but because it's a davar hamaimid, because ultimately, again, it's something that causes the cheese, I don't know what the right technical word is, to coagulate, or to come together, to harden,
Is it curdle?
To curdle, good. So we'll say, so again, so therefore, but this was even more. This was even though they weren't using non-kosher coagulants, but nevertheless, again, they were mamish coating the cheese with this non-kosher animal fat. So again, so we'll say this. So these are the three cases of Rav Malkiyo, and now the three cases of Rav Malkiyo. We'll say again, remember, because Rav Malkiyo made a statement. We're talking about tattooing. Rav Malkiyo says, by the way, you also can't heal an open wound with ashes, because once the wound closes, that leaves a mark on the skin, the ash, and that is like tattooing. So the Gemara said the following: Papa Amar Masnisin umasnisir Rav Malkiyo Shmeiser Rav Malkiyo. Usually, again, Rav Malkiyo is the one who's quoting different Mishnayos. Rav Malkiyo is the one ultimately, again, who was often quoting different rabbinic rulings. The Simonich Masnisa Malkisa. The way to remember this is Mishnayos are the Malkisa. So I'll say Rav Malkiyo sounds more like Malkisa than Rav Malkiyo, and therefore again, and the Rivan also points out that it's the feminine form like Mishnah, and therefore again, the way to remember it is Rav Malkiyo is always the one who quotes Mishnayos. Rav Malkiyo is always the one who is quoting ultimately different rabbinic statements. My ben, I will say. So what's the fundamental machlokes? So where exactly are they arguing? So the Gemara says Ika benayu shvachos. So we'll say the only question was, who said the halachos regarding shvachos, regarding that case where even if a woman brings in a whole workforce, she still has to do certain household responsibilities. Was it Rav Malkiyo? Was it Rav Malkiyo? That's the machlokes. Rav Bibi barabaye kape afilu arifta dukusilto. So I'll say back to tattooing. Rabbi Rabbi said he was makbid. I will say even by healing the little puncture hole by bloodletting. Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. It's actually the last line of the Riban. Rivda maka kusilta kli maka. So I'll say, interestingly enough, so we just said before that according to Rav Malkiyo, you can't go ahead and put ashes on an open wound in order to heal it. Now the Gemara says, Rabbi was makbid. When they would bloodlet, so for bloodlet, you have to puncture the skin a little bit. So that's just a small puncture. But Bepashas, they would often put ashes even on that small puncture. But obviously, it'd be a minute amount of ash because all you need is just a little puncture hole. Rabbi was makbid even on that small amount. Even on that small amount, you still can't do it because it leaves a mark. Rav Ashi Amar, Kol Makom Sheyesh Shamaka Makasam Ochiach Alav. Rav Ashi says that what? Rav Ashi says that Lamaisa, again, we don't worry about this type of stuff whenever it comes to refuah, because I will say, if a person needs to have a tattoo for the purpose of refuah, which I will say, this is halacha lemaisa today for people undergoing chemotherapy, where often, again, they tattoo the spots where the ports go. So lemaisa, again, obviously, comes along Rav Ashi and says, whenever we're talking about refuah, so there's no issue of tattooing when it comes to refuah. Why? Makaso mochiach alav. Because the nature of that tattoo is usually self-explanatory. People know that it's for the purpose of refuah, it's not for the purpose of tattooing, and therefore, again, halacha l'maisa is totally permitted. So bottom line, when it comes down to is, really, the prohibition of tattooing is what we'll call for discretional or recreational tattooing. That's going to be the type of tattooing that will be biblically prohibited. But at the end of the day, anything which serves a tzorech, in this case, the example would be for refuah, of course, will be permitted. Says the Mishnah. Nazir. So now we're going to go back to a little bit.
Amen.
The Mishnah goes back there. Nazir. So watch this. A Nazir who is drinking wine the entire day. It's like go big or go home, right? He's drinking wine the entire day. So what's the Avi Shailis? He's in violation of his neder and his zirus. Shailis, how do we quantify that violation? So the halacha is in chayv ala'acha. So what's the case over here? B'pashtos is he gets one hasra. He gets one hasra at the beginning of the day. He keeps drinking the entire day. Essentially, what we do is we look at it as one long act. Now, understand you can only be chayiv for violation of an aveira if you get hasra. Hasra, as we saw before, is only meaningful if what? If it immediately precedes the act. If lemaisa, again at the end of the day, the run the violation, someone is not chayav. So in this case over here, where we'll call him Reuben. Reuben is the Nazir. He starts drinking wine, so he's warned before he begins to drink. You're a Nazir. It's usher to drink wine. He drinks. That first act of drinking he's chayav for, but Lamaisa, the rest of the day he's not going to be chayav. So when we say he's chayav once, what it really means is he's chayav for that first time, but the asra does not devolve upon the other infractions. So the Gemara goes weiter. Amr lo al tishta tishtevu shosa chayva kol achas achas. I will say if they repeatedly warn him, every time he picks up the glass of wine, they warn him, don't drink, don't drink. Then what? He's going to be chayav for each individual act of drinking. I will say, so the Mishnah gives a number of examples of the same type of case. Hi, mitam the mason calling. The person was a kohen, and he's going into the base sakvar. He's going to the cemetery the whole day. So we'll say if he's going to the cemetery the whole day, so they warn him at the beginning. He's only chayav once. So I will say if at the end of the day they tell him, don't become tummy, don't become. They warn him repeatedly. They warn him before each act. Then what? He will be chayav for each individual act. Similarly, I will say if a person was going ahead and shaving with the razor the entire day, so what happens? So he's shaving the entire day, and so they warn him. He's only chayav once. However, I will say, but again, if they warn him before each act of shaving, then what I will say, he will be chayav for each individual act. It's the same case over and over. We'll say, listen to this. Let's say somebody was wearing shatnez the entire day. So we'll say again, he's only chayav once. Amrulo al tilbash vu poshet velovesh chayav kol achas achas. We'll say if they tell him, don't wear the shatnez, then what? He goes ahead, and I will say, now the Lashon we're going to examine this in the Gemara. Who poshet velovish, which means what? He takes it off and puts it back on. He'll be chayav for each individual act of wearing. We'll say, I'm a base. Listen to this case. Yesh chorish telam echad v'chayav alav mishum shmona lavin. We'll say, watch this. There could be a person who goes in and plows one furrow. Again, we'll discuss the nature of this case. Plows one furrow and is chayiv 8 times. And we'll say, where could it be chayiv for 8 lavin for the plowing of one furrow? And we'll say, what's the case of where you be chayiv 8 times for the plowing of one furrow? Listen to this. Hachorish b'shor v'chamar. No one will say he's plowing with an ox and a donkey tethered together. So first of all, again, that's a lav number 1, right? You're going ahead because shor v'chamar, you're not permitted to go ahead and plow with an ox and a donkey tethered together. We'll say to one yoke. So number 1, so that's prohibition number 1. So you're playing with an ox and a donkey. Next, vehein mukdashin. And we'll say what happens? They're consecrated, right? So in other words, you're not permitted to use these items all together. Ubikilai b'kerem, and I will say, what do you have it to be plowing? You're plowing again klaya kerem. So again, remember grain, wheat, and vines, wheat in a vineyard. Ubishvius, and it's Shemitah, Ubi Yomtiv, and it's Yomtiv, V'kohen v'nazir v'beis hatuma. And I will say, where is this field? This field is in the cemetery, and the person who's plowing is both a kohen and a nazir. So we'll say, you put this all together, and one little act of plowing, mamish can make you in violation of 8 different lavin. Chananya ben Chachinoi Omer. So we'll say, Chananya ben Chachinoi said, I'll add another one. Chananya ben Chachinoi Omer. And I will say, let's put one more on here. He's wearing shatnez. So we'll say, in addition to all these, also wearing shatnez. So I'm sorry? No tattoo. Good. So good. Hold on to that for just a little bit. Amrulo, Aim Hashek. So we'll say, so this is interesting. So why didn't the Tanakama include this case of bunch? In other words, in all kidding aside, let's say you could pile on a whole bunch of other stuff to this also, right? He could be wearing shatnez and he gets a tattoo and all these other things. So they say, no. Amrulo einam in Hashem. We'll say, remember, what are we looking for? We're looking for 8 prohibitions directly generated through the act of plowing. Meaning, so if you want to come up with a construct of a case for maximum prohibitions, you can also say that what? And he was eating a cheeseburger, right? And he was speaking lashon hara, right? And he was, so to say, so there's meaning. The idea over here is we're looking for one act which generates through its commission, through this action generates 8 simultaneous prohibitions. So we'll say the idea is the reason it didn't include shatnez is why? Because shatnez has nothing to do with what? The act of plowing. Shatnez has to do with the guy. right? Lashon Hara has to do with the guy. Getting the tattoo has to do with the guy. We're looking again for each prohibitions that come from the act of plowing. Well, says, well, 1 second. But I don't understand. So to remember again, part of the eighth was Zatabosai. He was a Kohen and a Nazir who was plowing in a Beis HaKvaros. So that also has nothing to do with the act. But the fact that he's a Kohen and a Nazir and now in a Beis HaKvaros ultimately has nothing to do with the act of plowing as well. Okay, so it ends up with that kasha. Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say the case over here that seems to fascinate the Gemara is the case of the shatnez. Remember again, what did we say? If a person was wearing shatnez the whole day, and before Ruvain puts on the shatnez jacket, so the Edom say then, hey, Ruvain, that's shatnez, and if you put it on, you're in violation of biblical prohibition, which carries with it Maakos, and Ruvain puts it on. So what's the halacha, we'll say? The halacha is that he's chayiv. Now again, even though he wears that shatnez throughout the day, he's only chayiv once. However, again, Amrulo, so remember, just reading the Mishnah, Amrulo, al tilbash. If they say to him, don't wear it, don't wear it. Vu poshet velovish, and he takes it off and he puts it back on, he will be chayiv for each infraction. So now we're going to define the scope of that. Specifically, what does it mean? He takes it off and he puts it back on. So it says the Gemara, listen to this. Amar Rabbi Yossi, poshet velovish, lovish mamish, or afilu machnis umotzi beis yad unkali shalo. So here's what's interesting. Obviously, what the Mishnah is saying is like this: in order for him to be chayiv from multiple acts of wearing shatnez, what has to happen? There has to be some type of removal of the garment and a putting on. So does removal literally mean poshet? He takes it off and he puts it back on, and that's really be chayiv a second time, a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time, or what? Or afilu machnis umotzi beis yad unkali. What's the beis yad unkali means? What? We'll say even if he takes off the sleeve, right? He doesn't totally take off the garment, but what? He takes off the sleeve. So the majority of the garment is on him, but he just removes part of it. So in order to be chayiv a second time, do I have to mamish take off the garment in its entirety and put it back on? Or just even removal of part of the garment and then putting it back on is enough to make me chayiv? So machvi Rav Acha Breid Rav Avya, Breid Rav Ika, Yuli Vafuki. Yuli Vafuki also means what? Even if he just takes off the sleeve, that is going to be enough. That's going to be enough. Ravashi Amar, Afilu lo shah elikede lifshot belilbosh chayiv. So this is actually quite dramatic. Yuli Vafuki means he takes it off and he puts it back on. Right? So literally he has to take off the garment and he has to put it back on. Ravashi says this is dramatically amazing. Afilu lo shah elikede lifshot belilbosh chayiv. Because he comes on Ravashi and says something dramatically amazing. First of all, look at the Rivan. What was the second one? Mamish. So what's the first shita is that no, in order to be chayiv a second time, what does he have to do? He has to mamish take off the garment, get warned, and then put it back on. Comes on Rashi and says no. Let's just translate the words. Afilu lo shah, even if he only just paused, elikete livshot v'lilbosh, enough time to go ahead and take it off and put it back on. Chayiv, he will be chayiv. That's what we'll say. So we'll say, what's the pshat over here? So what Ravashi seems to be saying is the following. In order to be chayiv a second time, it's not a din in removal of the garment. What is the din of? Cognition. What do I mean by that? We'll say that if I'm wearing the shatnez garment, and I pause for a moment, and they even tell me, hey, Silber, you know you're wearing shatnez, and if you continue wearing shatnez, you're going to be chayiv, and there's a cognitive pause there, where I understand, I intellectually ingest what is happening, and I recognize what is occurring, and that cognitive pause, which manifests itself in a physical pause, is long enough, again, for me to have taken off the garment and put it back on. I'm going to be chayiv the second time. So we'll say, so essentially what's happening over here, and by the way, this is the way that I'm asking halacha lemaisa, like this approach, which is I actually don't have to take off the garment a second time to be chayiv, but there has to be a cognitive / physical pause, which is long enough where there's an awareness, where I have an awareness as to what it is that's happening, long enough for me ultimately to go ahead and take the garment off and put it back on. I will be chayiv a second time. Amazing halacha. So it says, the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, Yesh choresh telam echad. So remember again, now we're going to go back to the case of the one act of plowing, which results in 8 prohibitions. Amr Rabbi Yanai, b'chabura nimnu v'gamru. You know, when we were learning this in the Chabura The Rivan says, Nirali Yom Asifa O Yom Vad Hayalam Shekon Chabura. When they used to get together, all the Rabbanim used to get together for a day to go over some halacha. They would call this the Chabura. What happened when they got together for the Chabura? Ninu v'gamru hachol v'kilayim loke. The Rabbi said the halacha is if you cover kilayim seeds, you are get malchus. What that means is the following. Let's say again there are seeds on the ground already. Now remember, kilayim, simple case of kilayim is grain and grapes. I have a grain seed and a grape seed together on the ground. They're together, they're mixed together already. And then what happens? I come and I put soil over it. So what's the halacha, Rabbi say? Rabbi Yanai says in the Chabura we decided you get malchus to that. Rabbi says, what's the chap over here? The chap is I didn't take the seeds, I didn't mix them together, I didn't put them in the ground. Rather, already on the ground, all I'm doing is what? Putting dirt over them. You get malchus for that for klaya keren. Act of putting dirt, literally covering the seeds with dirt is enough to make you chayiv. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, so Amar then Rabbi Yochanan said, Lav Mishnah Seinu Hizo. So Rabbi Yochanan says, I don't understand what's the chiddush in that. That's our Mishnah. What did the Mishnah say? Yesh chorish telam echad v'chayiv alav mishum shmar alavin. Both say, what did the Mishnah say? That there can be one act of plowing that you can be chayiv 8 times. Both say, what did the Mishnah say? Hachorish b'shar v'chamar. Because again, remember again, he's just going to go to the first part of the Mishnah. Someone plows with a shar nachamar, an axe on a donkey, v'hemukdashin, and they are hekdish, ukalayim bakerem, and he's plowing klaya kerem. Hi chorish to mechay mishum klaya heichem mishkachasla. We'll say, what is the case of plowing? Where you'll be concerned, we'll say, remember, what is plowing? Right? What is plowing? Plowing means you're uprooting soil. What's the case of plowing where you would be chayiv for klaya kerem? Lav de michsi behedja. Right? The Azil, we'll say, what's the case? So we'll say, here's the interesting part when you're plowing. What happens when you're plowing? So you're digging grooves into the ground. But we'll say, what happens by definition? You displace soil. The case of Klai Kara, we'll say, must mean that what? I'm plowing, and then the soil that I'm uprooting covers what? Covered seeds that were already on the ground. And yet what? I'm chayiv for kilayim. So what do you see from your Rabbi say? That, bless you, even covering seeds, which are already on the ground, is a chiyuv of klai hakar. So Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yanai comes along and says, Chabura, we got together and we decided that even if you go ahead and you cover seeds of wheat and grain, klai hakar together with earth, you're chayav for klai hakar. Rabbi Yochanan says, shkoyach, right? I mean, it's a Mishnah. So we learned that already. So listen to this. So the Gemara says, what's the case? Lab de michse behedja b'hadei v'azil. It must be that the seeds are already sitting on the ground. And then when Reuben comes along with his plow and he displaces the earth, he covers the seeds with earth. And he's chayav for klaya kerem. So let's say Rabbi Yanai responds. Rabbi Yanai says, listen to Rabbi Yochanan. Ilav didaloi lecha chaspa mimashkachas marganisa to say, had I not removed the piece of pottery, would you have found the precious jewel underneath it? In other words, what Rabbi Yanai says to Rabbi Yochanan is the only reason you could interpret the Mishnah that way is because I told you what the halacha is. In other words, the reason you could interpret the Mishnah as meaning that is because in the Chabura we decided, or in the Chabura we came to the conclusion that even if one covers the seeds of Klai HaKerem with earth, that is called an Isra of Kilayim. Now you can interpret the Mishnah, where the Mishnah says someone is plowing and they're going to be chayav for Klai HaKerem. What's the case of plowing which could result in a prohibition or in a violation of Klai HaKerem? On both sides, only the case of where you're covering the seeds. But the only way you know that is asr is why? Because we decided on the Chabura. So what's actually a beautiful, in other words, what Rabbi Yanai is saying is, you would not have been able to interpret the Mishnah that way had I not told you what the halacha is. Had I not removed, literally again, the pottery shard, you would not have found the beautiful, precious jewel. Beautiful exchange. Amar le Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabbi says, Reish Lakish also backs this. Rabbi says, Rabbi Yochanan, I lav de kilsach gavra rabba. So listen to this. So Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan, had the great man not praised your interpretation of the Mishnah. The great man is Rabbi Yanai. Right? So Rabbi Yanai is saying, remember, Rabbi Yanai is saying, Rabbi Yochanan, your interpretation of the Mishnah is correct. Rabbi Yanai is just saying that Rabbi Yochanan, the only reason you can interpret the Mishnah that way is why? Because I gave you this piece of information. So Reish Lakish says, Rabbi Yochanan, had Rabbi Yanai not said that the Mishnah is like you, Haba Amina Masnisin Man Rabbi Akiva. I would have thought that whose opinion does the Mishnah reflect? Maybe it reflects the view of Rabbi Akiva. The Amar, Let's listen to this, because Rabbi Akiva has a very interesting shita. Rabbi Akiva says, "Hamakayim kilayim loka." Rabbi Akiva says that even if one goes ahead and is Mekayim Kilayim. What Mekayim Kilayim means, he goes ahead and he supports Kilayim. So what that means, also, if you do some type of Kilayim maintenance, you're also chayiv. In other words, it's not just the act of planting Kilayim that is asur, but anything that maintains or which maintains Kilayim also. So which I will say, you understand, is a much more expansive prohibition. Now, according to Rabbi Akiva, the Isser is not only, again, the planting of Kilayim, but the Isser is the maintenance of Kilayim. This is riveting. So the Gemara says, My Rabbi Akiva, where do we see the sheet of Rabbi Akiva? Get ready for this. Tisanya, because we learned in a Braisa, Hamenache Shamechabe Bekilayim Loke. If I will say, listen to this. Let's say you have a plant of Kilay HaKaren planted already. It's planted already. And then what happens? You weed the ground. Or Mechape, or you cover the seeds. Kilayim, you get Maakos. Rabbi say this is Kilayim maintenance. It's not just planting of Kilayim, but it's even Kilayim maintenance. You're going to be Rabbi Akiva Omer Afa Mekayim. Rabbi Akiva essentially says, Rabbi say any case of Kilayim maintenance, you will be chayiv for. You'll be chayiv for. So Gemara says, my time to Rabbi Akiva. What's Rabbi Akiva's logic? The sign, because what does the pasuk say? Sodcha lo sizra Kilayim. So listen to this. The pasuk says, you shall not go. And Rabbi say lo sizra means what? Means what? Planting. Right? You can't go ahead and plant the seeds of kilayim in your son. Ainli ela zorea. I only know sowing, right? I only know planting. I was say, again, this is our conventional understanding. I only know that when it comes to kilayim, the only thing that's also is planting. So mekayim inayim. How do I know that I'll say any type of kilayim maintenance? And then the kilayim maintenance will also be also. We'll say, get ready for this, by the way. This is a raya for Hasidic drushes. I just want to tell you what we're about to learn over here. Watch this. Look what the pasuk says. So let me just read you. What does the pasuk say first? So just to understand where the pasuk is coming from. The pasuk says, "Behemtecha lo sabia kilayim." Right? You should not no kilayim by animals. Behemtecha lo sabia kilayim. Sadcha lo sizra kilayim. You can't have kilayim in your fields. Ubeget kilayim shatnez lo vayala alech. Rabbi said the Torah is teaching me about 3 categories of forbidden mixtures. You can't have forbidden mixtures by animals. You can't have forbidden mixtures in your field by seeds, and you can't have forbidden mixtures in your clothing. So really, it's again animals. It's kilaya kerem and it's shatnez. Watch this. Get ready for this. So we'll say behem tchalo sabia. Behem tchalo sabia. Kilayim sodcha lo sizra kilayim. So we'll say you see how in the Gemaras that you see that most of the Gemaras you have bracketed, you have parentheses. So what the Gemara is dashing over here is the drasha over here of Rabbi Akiva ultimately is just isolating that middle phrase. So we bracket Behem tchalo sabia. Sizra kilayim parentheses, and you end up with that middle phrase, which is what? Kilayim sadcha lo. That's the drasha. Kilayim sadcha lo means what? No form of kilayim in your field, which means what? Which means what? Anything that maintains kilayim will be usher. So from here, Rabbi Akiva dashes. You hear this incredible drasha? Rabbi Akiva essentially, what he does is he pulls out the middle 4 words, the middle 3 words of a pasuk. Right? Which I will say again, I want to just point out the first word of that pasuk belongs to the previous phrase. Right? Sadchalo, it refers ultimately again to the last part. So I will say what he does is he pulls out 3 words and he makes a drasha from it. And the drasha is kilayim sadchalo, to teach me any type of kilayim maintenance is ultimately going to be aser. Amar the Gulura Nachman. What's amazing, no?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. I'll say this is gonna get more excitement than Rugalach. I'm just saying this is like it's an incredible drasha. I'll say also because remember there's a lot of this. Okay, I understand. It's concerning me. I'm not conveying it with the right level of enthusiasm. So just understand there's a lot of like halachic literature, Rishonim literature about this because this is a very strange drasha. To just go ahead and pull out a pasuk, to pull out a phrase in the middle of a pasuk, and to go and interpret it in a way that runs counter to the pasuk is a dramatic drasha. Okay, Rabbi Akiva has a shita. So I'll say, well, at least begin this, and then we're going to stop here for today. So coming back now, the Mishnah told me that there are 8 prohibitions ultimately for this act of plowing. Comes along with says Rav Nachman. There should be another. There should be a 9th. We'll say why you should also get Malchus for what? You should also get Malchus for plowing on Yom Tov. Plowing on Yom Tov. So the Gemara says, or I should say, sowing on Yom Tov. Amar lei. So we'll say, look at Rashi, but just the Rivan for just a moment. So we'll say it's 2, 4, 6 lines out from the bottom. So the Gemara says the following. The Rashi says the following. Remember again, included in the list of the 8 infractions in the Mishnah was what? Was a violation for Yom Tov. But what are you violating on Yom Tov? In the Mishnah's case, what? Choresh. But we'll say choresh means the act of plowing. Now what the Gemara is suggesting is there should be a 9th prohibition, which is for what? Rabbi say zorea, which means what? Sowing. Rabbi say, what's the case of sowing over here? Remember again, look at Rivan for just a moment. Rivan says, this is amazing. Watch this. Remember, we just set up. One of the things that you're chayiv for in this case is for kilaya karim. How do we just set up? How are you violating kilaya karim? Rabbi say in this case, the Mishnah, are you violating it? Remember, because I'm plowing, but through plowing an uprooted soil, that uprooted soil ends up covering seeds of wheat and grapes together. So I'm covering the seeds. Whoa. Well, if you're covering the seeds, then what? It's not just an issue then of klai keren. What else have you done? You've done an act of sowing. In which case, again, why should you not be chayiv for zoreya on Yom Tov as well? Sowing seeds, planting seeds on Yom Tov as well. In which case, again, you're not only chayiv for choresh, but you're chayiv for zoreya. In which case, you should be chayiv 9 times. To which the Gemara will say, amazing. To which the Gemara will zoreya, amarlei ton of a shear. It says, you're right. When the Mishnah said you're chayiv 8 things, it didn't just mean 8 things. It means I'm giving you 8 things, but there's also more. Amarlei, come on. Tana katani shmona. Amri tana b'shir. You're wrong. Don't give me that answer. Meaning at the end of the day, remember again, I will say the Mishnah. See, I will say, if the Mishnah just wanted to say you're going to be chayiv a lot of stuff, then say you could do one act and be chayiv a lot of stuff. And if you say a lot of stuff, I know a lot of stuff means what? That there's a lot of stuff. That there's this list, but this list may not be complete. The moment you make a statement and you say you could do one act that could have 8 chiyuvim, what that means is what? 8 is a specific number. So don't tell me that 8 means 8, maybe give or take a little bit. 8 means 8. So what's happening over here? Amarav, you're right. Yesh chiluk malachas b'Shabbos ben chiluk malachas b'Yom Tov. Oh, I'll say, watch this. To which the Gemara says, you're right. When it comes, there is a chiluk malachas on Shabbos, but no chiluk malachas Yom Tov. We'll say, what does that mean? Take a look at the Rivan. 5 lines up from the bottom. Ein chiluk malachas b'Yom Tov. Im asa shtayim v'shalosh malachas b'elam echad. O asa malachas sheyish b'shtayim eino chayiv ela achas. We'll say, watch this. When it comes to Shabbos, if you do multiple malachos in one ha'elam, in one lapse of awareness, you could be chayiv for each and every malacha. When it comes to Yom Tov, Rabbi say, you are not chayiv for multiple malachos performed within one lapse of time. Therefore, again, why not? Hold your horses. We're going to see that. We're going to get to that. We'll see it actually tomorrow. So the Gemara says the following. So, ein chiluk malachos by Yom Tov, b'yesh chiluk malachos by Shabbos. Therefore, I will say the Gemara suggests over here that because this is one act which results in multiple malachos, on Shabbos you could be chayiv for multiple malachos in such a scenario, but by Yom Tov you will not be chayiv for multiple malachos. Says the Gemara, Amar le Ada Tehei. So ultimately, again, Ada said, does the name Tehei? I will say that indeed this is a correct interpretation, and that's why, again, in the case of the Mishnah, which is taking place on Yom Tov, you'll be chayiv for the act of choresh, but you will not be chayiv ultimately again for the act of zoreh, for the act of seeding. I will say why that is. So again, where we're ending off right now is that's why the Mishnah's case is 8, even though there is a secondary act of zoreh over here. There is no chiluk malachos. You're not chayiv for multiple malachos performed in one helam, in one lapse of awareness on Yom Tov. Even though you would be chayiv for that on Shabbos. So we'll stop over here for today. Tomorrow we will understand why that is, that you will not be chayiv for chiluk malachos. But more importantly, tomorrow we will challenge that very assertion, and Amir Tzashem reach a conclusion on that as well.